It is impossible to record with two cats. I have one that's about to climb on my laptop, and the other one is vigorously shitting. I'm on the couch today because I live in Belgium. It's 5 p.m. and it's still winter, which means that it's just getting dark. And the lighting in my room is absolutely terrible. So I'm on the couch. My cat is next to me. Yeah. We are joined by Mr. Kitty. Mr. Kitty, his name is Fidel. He has one eye. He has no thoughts. Head empty. Very sweet. Very cuddly. Just a dude. He's a very chonky man. I love him to death. He's 4 years old. He does not want to sit on my lap, apparently. As I am making a video on the history of emo, I thought I had to pull out this shirt from my closet. It's good old Dan and Phil merch. Because icons, you know? I mean, if you look at my channel, you know that alternative subcultures have fascinated me for as long as I can remember. I, as many of us, had an emo phase. By the looks of it, I haven't really left it yet. And the thing is, I feel like most people will see the 2000s emo as what emo is. Like, if I were to ask someone, give me a description of what emo is, they'd probably give me like Way, Paramore, Panic at the Disco, 2000s, sideswept black bangs and studded belts and very skinny jeans and MySpace. But the more I've been diving into other alternative subcultures, the more I'm like, what is their history? Because there's always a history of how music and a genre came to be. What is the history with emo? And I kind of came across it when I was recording my last video, like different substyles of goth, because one of them was emo, which I don't agree with. Emo is a cousin of goth, not a sibling, because they're two very distinct things. But I came across some of the history while I was researching for that video, and it got me thinking that pretty interesting. And I know some music nerds like me are probably also very interested in what the history of emo, of goth, because, and that's something I learned recently, or while I was doing my research, that the stuff we associate with emo today is actually classified as the emo revival, or like the last wave of emo subcultures. Emo subcultures can be split into four different waves, emotional hardcore being the first, Midwest emo and screamo being the second, pop punk kind of the third, and then the last one is emo revival, aka what we associate with emo today. So today I kind of want to take the time to explain the four different waves, kind of delve deeper into each of them. I don't think my video will be as long as my last one, but I do think this is a cool deep dive, or like a plunge into the deeper end, not really a deep dive. Anyway, of course, I'm going to start with the first wave, which is emotional hardcore. In my first video, I talked about the punk movement, or like a small history portion of the punk movement. And one of the things I mentioned was Riot Girl. It kickstarted in Washington. I know I said Washington, D.C. in my first video. It was a wookie. I made a mistake. I have since corrected myself in the comments. People keep commenting about it. I feel stupid. Anyway, so today I'm going to correct myself and say that emotional hardcore, just like Riot Girl, originated in Washington. Not specifically Washington, D.C., but Washington. As the hardcore punk scene evolved, substances and alcohol became much more prominent in the scene, which then also meant that the violence at shows increased. Mosh pits weren't just like dancing in a weird way, but it was actually like punching, violence, which was not what it was meant to be. In response to that violence, Minor Threat released Straight Edge in 1981, a loud, less than 50-second track on their debut single featuring the lyrics, "I'm a person just like you, but I've got better things to do than sit around and fuck my head, hang out with the living dead, snort white up my nose, pass out at the shows. I don't even think about speed, that's something I just don't need. I've got the straight edge." Quickly after its release, the song took a life of its own, taking the title and becoming the anthem of the vastly growing international straight edge movement. The points of the movement were that with how the hardcore punk scene looked at the time due to all the substances, it alienated young punks, and it was also kind of a movement to show that you didn't need substances to enjoy a gig. Many people who became a part of this movement were eager to cast off the overwhelming peer pressure of drinking, smoking, whatever. They didn't see drinking themselves into oblivion as something cool. They just saw it as plain stupid. And others even connected it to a much deeper meaning, viewing substances as a political issue, seeing inebriation as a sad way of unwillingly or unwittingly complying into a capitalist system. My cat got scared of his own tail. I just I just want to acknowledge that. Anyway, if you've ever been to a club or a gig or a concert or just any place that serves alcohol, you might notice that some people have an X marked on their hand. It was used before wristbands became popular, but I still see it to this day. And it's basically just a way of showing, like, hey, this kid is a minor. Don't serve them alcohol. Don't be weird. And the straight edge movement took the same sign and put it on their hand or their clothes as a way of showing that they were part of the movement. The reason I am delving into the straight edge movement is because the emotional hardcore bands were also very much a part of this movement. And famously, in 1958, Revolution Summer took place, an event set in motion by Amy Pickering, who is also referred to as the mother of the revolution, which I think is very, very cute. Pickering would send out notes all around Washington or all around the Washington punk scene using Revolution Summer kind of to show or to reflect a climax or an end of something within the punk scene. So, at Revolution Summer, multiple bands who were associated with the straight edge movement, like Grey Matter, Beef Eater, Fire Party, Dag Nasty, and Soulside, performed. Hi, sorry for the way I look. Editing these here. I messed up. Those bands are associated with the straight edge movement, but they didn't perform at Revolution Summer. The bands who performed were Westminster Dysentery, Rites of Spring, Lunch Meat, and Embrace. I'm sorry, I should have fact checked what I was saying, but I didn't. But now I did, so I'm here. Hey, woo, let's go. Some of the members of each of those bands would form Fugazi. I don't want to pronounce it in a European way, so I'm trying, but I don't know how to pronounce it properly. They formed Fugazi a year later, and they're still credited as one of the first emo bands, if not the first emo band, but they actually despise that label. The lead singer of Fugazi spoke on the topic in 2003, saying, "I've never recognized emo as a genre of music. I thought that all the bands I played in were punk rock bands. The reason I think it's so stupid is that, what, like the Bad Brains weren't emotional? They were robots or something? It just doesn't make sense to me." And the rejection of the term emo carried on all throughout the 80s. Artists who were called emo would call it, quote, the stupidest thing they've ever heard. And before I get into the second wave, I feel like I should clarify what the emo sound really included at that time. While in the 80s it was classified by melodic mid-tempo songs with harsh, fast, distorted guitars, dynamic melodies, and emotional, most of the time, screamed vocals. By the second wave, it became more focused on introspective vocals, lyricism, and melodic elements of emo core with the dynamics and eclecticism of indie rock, aiming towards a softer and less hardcore oriented sound, becoming what we know as Midwest emo today. But on the other side of the spectrum, you had screamo, where the focus was much more on the use of screamed vocals, frequent tempo and rhythm changes, abrasive atmospheres, and guitar-focused melodicism, melodies. The second wave takes place around the early 90s. The genre started expanding out of its West Coast birthplace and started traveling to the Midwest region, hence why the term Midwest emo. Bands like Sunny Day Real Estate, Cap'n Jazz, and The Promise Ring would polish up the gnarly edges of early emo and amped up the emotions carrying the song. And as the emotions amped up, younger audiences got enamored by the sounds. Teenagers would find comfort in the lyrics, feeling a sense of community, like they were actually being heard. Bands and fans would inspire each other, and that connection quickly turned into a full-fledged underground movement. And although Midwest emo is still a consistent genre, within the 2020s, it's become a bit of a meme on TikTok, mainly just poking fun at the genre's characteristics, like the extremely long song title names, the poor singing quality, or the lyrics. I swear, if I see one more TikTok that's like, "Cause tonight will be the night that I will fall for you." I love Midwest emo, but my gosh, bro. But like I said, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, you had Screamo, who, instead of polishing up the rougher edges of emo like Midwest emo did, does. It put even more of an emphasis on the rough edges. They combine the early sounds of emo with math rock, which is also a style of alternative and indie rock. What I also found interesting is that math rock, or the name math rock, comes from their non-standard time signatures. Um, while most bands play in like a 4/4 time signature, math rock will play with the time signatures and they'll do like 5/4, 7/8, or 13/8, which I cannot stress enough as a musician. Why? Yeah, no, I thought I should just mention that for any other musicians who would like to have a mental breakdown listening to this video. Anyway, Screamo developed towards the late 90s, mainly in the East Coast. They also included emotional lyrics with themes of pain, death, romance, and human rights. But instead of the more whiny vocals of Midwest emo, Screamo tends to scream. The band Heroin is generally credited as the first Screamo band, and they're also a pretty big inspiration for other Screamo bands that would come later on. As I mentioned in my last video, early emo, mainly Screamo bands were also called Spock Rock due to many of them dyeing their hair black and cutting straight fringes similar to Star Trek character Spock. This in combination with their like geek chic style of dressing would prove particularly influential on the development of the subsequent emo and scene subcultures. In the early stages of Screamo, it was typified by a bunch of things, but from the 2000s on, it's basically just any band that screams in their lyric or like in their songs is classified as screamo. I feel like the third wave I'm gonna mention might ruffle some feathers because it's probably not considered emo, but it was pretty influential in what emo became because pop punk has existed since punk became a thing. But what I'm specifically referring to is the mid to late 90s to like the mid 2000s era of pop punk. Around that time, the widespread popularity of the genre increased, with bands like Green Day and The Offspring rising up, being followed by Blink 182, Sum 41, Good Charlotte, and even Avril Lavigne. Pop punk is mainly defined by its fast paced, energetic tempo and the emphasis on classic pop songcraft as well as the like adolescent and anti-suburbia themes. Basically just giving a heavier spin on pop or popifying punk. Um, it really just depends on how you see it. People who want to insult the genre will say like, "Oh, it's popifying punk." If you I don't know, man. People tend to just not like it. People tend to do like it. It's weird. One of them sounds wrong, the other one just sounds insulting, if that makes sense. With pop punk becoming more widespread, another emo staple rose up. Warp Tour would not only play a crucial role in launching up and coming pop punk artists, but it would also become a festival which emos looked up to each and every year. I'm still salty that I was a young European girl who couldn't just fly to the United States for some editions because my gosh, those posters around like 2010, 2016, they were calling my name, dude. They were calling my name. We never had like that. And now that I am an adult, Warp Tour just isn't what it used to be, man. Also, definitely not flying into the States anytime soon. Are you guys okay? That's a dumb question, but like, are you guys okay? Do you need a hug? Like I said, pop punk tends to be a very controversial genre because of how it's seen from a standpoint of different subcultures. A lot of punks will say that much of the genre merely consists of pop bands who add the punk to their name, so kids will think they look edgy when they listen to it. I've seen other people say like you're either punk or you're not, and you can't be in between. Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong described power pop or pop punk as the greatest music on earth that no one likes. And don't shoot the messenger, me being the messenger, but I can agree with both sides. While I wouldn't put pop punk in the same category as early punk, I still love it. I definitely don't think it fits into the pop category either, but I don't know. I don't know, man. It's not punk in the sense that how early punk was just very loud, not really necessarily good music just to make a statement. Like it doesn't fit into that category, but it is it's not pop. If that makes sense. And last but not least, our beloved emo revival, the fourth wave of emo. Because by the time the 2000s and especially the late 2000s rolled around, the boundaries of emo had blurred even more than it already did. By this time, like it had influences from everything. It had influences from emo, from screamo, from Midwest emo, from pop punk, and any other thing that came to be around that time. Jimmy Eat World and Brand New would fuse punk scraps with emo lyrics and a poppy structure, while bands like Thursday were leaning more towards post-hardcore and screamo. And of course, with the birth of MySpace, emo went from a simple music genre to a full culture. Just like with mall goths, who were criticized for stealing the goth look without really knowing what the music behind it was, what the politics behind it were, all that stuff. You also had mall emos, which I didn't know. Technically, the emo we think of is classified as mall emo, which is pretty funny to me because that's also a thing that annoys goths a lot. That like people will see mall goth and see it as just goth overall, but also like trad goth. I don't know. It's weird. Basically, Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, Paramore, and My Chemical Romance, and all of those other iconic bands became the leaders of the mall emo scene, but eventually evolved into the leaders of the 2000s emo scene, which I still think is really funny. That means that most of the bands we associate with emo today are actually not, but they are, but they aren't. I know it's nitpicky. Like, I'm not gonna be one to whine about it. I just think it's cool. I'm not making this video to be like, if you call My Chemical Romance emo, you're wrong. Like, no, I call them emo. I think I I'll add a label to it, whatever I want. It's not that I'm making this video to be like me 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 me. I'm merely just making this video because I think it's really cool. If you would have told me that My Chemical Romance was technically not seen as emo by a lot of people, I would think you're wrong. But apparently you're not. So hey, good for you, buddy. But my whole rant is basically just as mall goths are still outcasted by some parts of the goth subculture, late 2000s or like mall emos still get the same treatments from emos from the other waves. A lot of frustration comes from exactly what I admitted in the beginning of this video. If you think of emo, you probably immediately think of Gerard Way or Hayley Williams, since the revival era had so much influence and popularity, the things that pop into your mind as emo aren't really classified as emo by a lot of followers of the genre, especially early followers. Some elder emos or fans of other emo waves will say things like that MCR convoluted the term emo and they're still fighting off the stigma they attached to it. Personally, I think it's a bit much to say that kind of stuff. But hey, that's just an opinion. A personal opinion. If you got that reference, thank you. If you didn't, I'm so sorry. This is just my personal opinion segment, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like in the end, it doesn't even matter. I like to lose it all. Sorry. At the end of the day, it's a fashion style and it's a music genre. Like if you call MCR emo, the world's not gonna explode. If you don't call MCR emo, the world's not gonna change. It's just how you personally view it, and there's nothing wrong with viewing it in a different way than someone else might view it. I just thought this video was cool to make because I like knowing the history of stuff. I like deep diving into stuff I'm interested in, and if I could give you at least like some useful information, hey, that's cool. If you just listen to this in the background, that's fine by me. You're welcome, and thank you for listening to me yap for half an hour. That's really cool. On the topic of that, 2,000 people. Wow. Hello. Why? I did not expect to hit 1K. I did not expect to hit 2K. I did not expect to grow at all. I did not expect to hit 70K views on my first video. Insane. Um, Thank you. That's all I can say. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You give me a platform for me to yap about stuff I love. You give me a safe place where I can yap about the stuff I love. And yeah, I want to keep creating videos. I really like doing this. I really enjoy doing this. If you have anything you want me to research, if you have anything you want me to talk about, leave it in the comments. I promise I read through them. Also important to note, I definitely want to switch between 20, 30-minute videos and 1 hour videos because the 1 hour videos do really take like 2 weeks of fully focusing on what I'm doing. And due to some personal things in my life right now, I was not able to do that. It's been rough. It's been really rough the past 2 weeks. I still want to get the video out. That's why I'm recording on my couch with very bad lighting. Lighting. Um, yeah, it's oh my God. It's not been best week. I'll pull through it. I know I can. I know I will. Um, I'm just sharing this probably pretty vulnerable part. In case anyone else is having a shitty week, or shitty month, or shitty year, you're not alone. You're here. You're listening to me. If I'm talking to you, then hey, what's up, buddy? Glad you're here. And if anyone's just struggling as well, eventually shit will go right. Even if it doesn't completely, shit might go very, very wrong, shit might hit the fan, but you might eat your favorite cookie. And cookies are great. Cookies don't solve problems, but they make you happy. It's a very bad thing, but just you got this. I got this. We got this. Enough sappy shit. Thank you for watching. Leave in the comments what you want to see. I definitely have a lot of video ideas, but I also definitely want to make videos that you guys want to watch. And I'll see you in the next video.